One.
Hello and welcome. It is Unnecessary Roughness Monday night. I don't think we even have a name for this. We just go live on Monday nights during the college football season, and that's what we got here. Casey's here, Katie's here, Jack is here. Of course, I'm here because I'm so good looking. And this podcast brought to you by the good folks at High Noon Hard Seltzer. Casey's going to tell you all about them.
Yes, High Noon. I'm sure you guys talked a little bit about it on Saturday. I know I joined the podcast late, but guys, I finally tasted the tangerine. The Prez pack is out, and I know I mentioned it a little bit, but I have to mention it off the top. It is absolutely my favorite flavor, and I'm not just saying that because it's in Dave's pack or it's the new flavor. It is absolutely the best flavor I've ever tasted, because I've said, Jack, if you can get an orange flavored drink right, it's really, really good. And tangerine and orange, same thing. If you get it wrong, it's bad. High Noon did it so right. I have now changed that if I can't do a peach bath, which I've been asking for years and it's not happened, maybe if I say I'll take a tangerine bath, they'll give it to me because it's that good.
Yeah, shout out High Noon. New flavor. It's always exciting when new flavors come out. This one I think I'm the most excited for. I'm a big orange fan, tangerine, whatnot. I can't wait to have it. I haven't had it yet, but I will soon. And when that moment happens, it's going to be glorious. Shout out High Noon. Shout out the Prez pack. Shout out just the original pack, individual packs. It's all phenomenal.
It's all so good. And like Dave's pack obviously has his face on it, but like everybody at Barstool has had all the High Noons, right? Like that's what we do. This weekend when we were in Madison, I was physically going around to like Jake Malisak and MB and everybody like, have you tried the tangerine? Have you tried? Like, that's how much I loved it. And of course, all the other ones are that good. But right now, the Prez pack you can find at a lot of different places in Madison. They were at all the different liquor stores. So look at your local liquor store, your convenience store. Drizzly, of course, always carries all the High Noons, both the vodka and the tequila. Tis the season where you might be staying in. The weather's a little bit cold. They hit just as good on the couch, tailgates, games, whatever. Go get it. Thank you to High Noon. And I assume tomorrow, a lot of Halloween parties will have High Noon because it is Halloween tomorrow. And I don't know if, Brandon, you can come back. I don't know if you guys still celebrate Halloween or not. But Brandon, I would assume with 4 kids, Halloween is something in your household, right?
The star of the show is back. Hello and welcome to Unnecessary Roughness. I am Brandon Walker. Of course, alongside with me are Casey and Katie and Jack. It's good to have everybody here.
What are you doing?
Just welcoming everybody into the show.
All right.
Halloween's a mess, man. Halloween sucks. I just, whatever. Let's just move on from Halloween.
I can only imagine with 4 kids. I can't, like Halloween in college, like again, when we were in Madison, it looked like, I was like, man, college parties, Halloween really hits. And then you hit a certain part in the adulthood. You may go to a party, maybe not. Now I've re-entered Halloween where my infant son doesn't know what's going on, but he will be dressed up tomorrow. I can only imagine as they get older, it gets very annoying.
Jack, have you seen this new contender to Livy Dunn on the gymnastics scene on Instagram and TikTok? Have you seen this new one?
Of course he has. I don't know who you're talking about.
Wait, who?
Sydney Smith.
I gotta look her up.
I actually don't know who she is. Where did she play?
She's gymnastics at like Central Connecticut State or something, Southern Connecticut State or something.
I hate to tell you this. If Jack doesn't know who she is, she's not a contender to Livy Dunn.
Just 2.2 million TikTok followers.
I'm going to
Southern Connecticut State University. This is a big L for me because if she's Connecticut and big on TikTok,
I'm just saying. I look like I got my finger on the pulse of things here. I just didn't know if Jack had seen her yet.
I have not. I mean, she's
why?
I wish her the best in her upcoming gymnastics season.
What are you saying, Katie?
I can't find her.
Her focus is not on gymnastics. Let's be real. Just
Whoa,
going on.
whoa.
Instagram? I'm so old.
I'm sorry. What's the name of the company we work for?
Whoa. Her first of all, I was told that like this is allowed. Like this has nothing to do with their gymnastics.
You got it.
Katie, what is the name of the company we work for? Barstool what?
Oh boy.
Sports
is gymnastics a sport?
Sorry, I'll stick to sports.
She is so hot.
Maybe next time me and Jack will have that conversation off here.
No. I'm sorry. It took me forever to find her because I'm an old. I was on Instagram looking for her. Apparently
Casey
My
and I have
goodness
talked
gracious.
enough about Sam Hartman that you guys are owed this one.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, but we
My
never
goodness.
say Sam Hartman isn't focused on football.
Yeah. No, we wouldn't do that.
You can make gymnastics after college is not profitable. Football, if you're not in the NFL, is not profitable after college. You have to market yourself in the right way.
Brandon, I apologize. She
Hey,
is.
It's all good.
I mean,
all
Livy
good.
Dunn is the queen, but this. Wow.
You know, Livy Dunn follows Jack on TikTok.
No, I do
And
not.
Instagram.
Close friends.
Yep. Okay, here we go. Let's football. It's football. I have 3 football topics that I want to talk about, and then Casey has some questions she's going to ask, and I'm going to answer expertly. And hopefully by 6:40 Central Time, we'll have wrapped up what we're talking about. Just relax, man. Just relax, Casey.
I just want the people that are watching this, whether it's now or later, to go. I mean,
Okay. All right. This is not. This show isn't about that. Okay.
you derailed me. I'm sorry.
I have 3 topics we're going to talk about, and then we're going to do Casey's questions, and then hopefully at 6:40, 6:45, I can turn the attention to the chat. And I see you over there, chat, RJ and Chris J and Evan G, Harry W, Mike R, Jason Bradley. Hello to all of you. Tyler Wilson is hanging out in the chat. Anybody who's hanging out in the chat, we'll get to your comments in just a second. So thank you very much for being here. Now,
Like the video while you're waiting.
like the video, Thomas Vizek. Real quick. Not a big deal. Casey, no. This is to Jack. Jack, do you know that Katie tried to kick me out of the Ball Boys?
Yeah, I did see that.
For real?
Sickening.
YKB. First of all, I came up with YKB, and there's only 2 members of it.
Well, 2 members on this show of it. We have the YKB Boys chat after this.
Well, yeah, but I'm just talking about the 4 people on the screen that I'm looking at right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 2 in the group, and you can't kick somebody out of the Illuminati if you're not in the Illuminati. It's very similar.
Crazy.
I wasn't pretending to be in it. I was going to go into it, grab him by the collar, and yank him out. That
Would
was
have been funny. Would have been very funny, but you can't do that.
You're too far away. Lucky you.
Can't do that. All right. So the Jim Harbaugh Michigan cheating scandal continues to be a source of entertainment. Last night it was reported, and we had confusion in our group chat if it was an old story or if it was not. But it was reported that Michigan has backed off of its offer to make a contract offer to Jim Harbaugh to make him the highest paid coach in the country or the Big Ten or whatever, a new offer to continue being their coach and getting paid at a very, very, very high rate. It was reported that they backed off of that a little bit. Now, Michigan and Jim Harbaugh might say it a little bit differently. Maybe it's come out. I don't know what's come out today. But here's the thing about all of this. This probably doesn't end up being the thing that takes Michigan football off wherever they are right now. It's probably not a franchise ending or program ending scandal. But it's also not nothing. This is not nothing. Any Michigan fans that act like this is business as usual, any Michigan fans that act like, oh, well, we just walk away from contract offers all the time. Something is amiss here. I don't know where the punishment's going. I don't know how far it might go. This is not business as usual, Casey.
No, it's not. And I understand that anything that happens right now is going to be, headline news. However, this one is weird because, like you said, there was confusion in our group chat, like when it broke, when it re-broke, the wording of it. And then now we have like the reporters close to the situation, Michigan reporters coming out and saying it's not true. Jim Harbaugh's kind of denying it. So there's like, it's muddy waters with it. And I don't know if we'll ever have the true story. But of course, when there's smoke, there's fire. And I understand that. But this one seems odd because it's not just like, oh, there's an allegation and then there's people defending it or going against it. It's like, what actually happened? And I don't think we know that answer right now.
Jack, I'm going to give you 3 options, okay? Here are your 3 options. From the Michigan scandal right now, here are your 3 options. Michigan gets in a lot of trouble. Number 2, Michigan doesn't really get in trouble, but Harbaugh does. And number 3, nothing happens. What option are you taking?
I don't
What
think
was the
anything's going
second
to
option. I mean, I was asked.
Your options are Michigan gets in trouble. Michigan doesn't get in trouble, but Harbaugh does. Nothing happens.
I'm going to say option 2 with a little bit of an amendum.
Mhm.
That's a
amend them. Yes.
amendum that says that he doesn't really get in that much trouble.
So you think he is the one that gets in trouble, but it's not bad?
Actually, it's probably a combination of the two because they'll probably take some wins and it just really won't.
Yeah.
What would trouble look like? Scholarship taken away? That's the thing.
The worst thing that I could possibly think of would be the Big Ten stepping up right now and saying, you are not eligible for our championship game this year. That's the only thing, because the NCAA takes too long. But if the Big Ten feels internal pressure from the Ohio States of the world, Penn States of the world, that's the only thing I can see happening. I really can't see that happening, though. But that's what comes to my mind. Casey, here are your 3 options. Michigan gets in trouble. Harbaugh gets in trouble. Nobody gets in trouble.
I don't think anybody gets in trouble. I think that they, especially this year, like I could see them trying to do what the NCAA normally does and like retroactively do something about it. But I don't think, we're almost in November in the next couple of days. I don't think that they're going to make a strong enough statement in the next 2 months to say, you can't play in the college football playoff, whatever. I could eventually see this being like, well, Jim Harbaugh's in trouble. But if we, believe the rumors and, whether it's because Dan really wants it and we hear it at Barstool all the time, like maybe this is finally the time where Jim Harbaugh says, all right, I don't want to deal with any of this. Like the smoke is here. I'm just going to go to the NFL. I'm going to go coach the Chicago Bears or the Chargers or whoever it may be.
But did you see that reports are right now that the NFL, there's really no interest in him?
But
I saw that. I saw that. I think it is hilarious that the NFL is saying that. I do wonder how much are any NFL franchises going to tip their hand about which coaches they would and would not take at this time of the year.
And also, why would they care about this? Like, if they
I think they would more care that Harbaugh's end with the 49ers was not great. And he's a guy that demands a lot of ownership, not in the sense of percentage of the organization he's going into, but instead he wants control over GM moves. He wants control from top to bottom, which that's why he's not the coach of the Minnesota Vikings right now.
That's one of the reasons I laughed last week when Michigan fans, and hell, Dan did it too. And Dan was doing his little, his Harbaugh to Chicago Bears bit. But a lot of people were saying he didn't know. The thing is, Jim Harbaugh is known in NFL circles as one of the most control-oriented people they've ever had. He's a control freak. The reason he left San Francisco is they wouldn't give him total control over everything. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing that's going to happen inside the walls at Michigan that he's not going to know about it. So that was never an excuse that was going to fly.
I agree with you. Like, he knows. If it's happening, he knows about it.
Yeah, Jack.
I would say there's probably, it's a lot like the mafia, right? Or any organized crime. The guy at the top knows, but he doesn't know enough. Where
he knows what he needs to know.
He knows what he needs to know, which is, the guys that we're paying are doing enough to make sure that we know a little what you want to know. He doesn't know about the alleged, what the Washington Post reported, sign stealing, essentially schedule that was on one of the hard drives that was gained access to, that the NCAA has access to. So there's enough reasonable doubt. But that being said, we've seen this enough where it doesn't really even matter. You're the head coach. You're supposed to know, and if you don't, that's also partly your fault.
That's the Pat Fitzgerald thing, right? Like we don't know what he knew, but the fact that it was happening means he goes down for it.
That's why you get paid so much money.
Yeah. Katie, I'm sorry. Did I ask? I can't remember, so I want to give you your time. Michigan gets in trouble. No, wait. Michigan gets in trouble. Harbaugh gets in trouble. No trouble.
I think it's going to be the silently like, hey, this is a good time to move on. Like, it's a Harbaugh's own decision is most likely, I would think. But I also would not be surprised if there's no trouble and it's just like a UNC thing. Like, everyone knows, but they couldn't prove it.
Does anybody think, and I'm just throwing this out there, does anybody think Michigan is using this opportunity to maybe go in a different direction and Harbaugh is probably going to have to start over somewhere like Starkville, Mississippi. Harbaugh is going to have to go like Zach Arnett, maybe be let go or something because our coach died last year. And to honor Mike Leach, Jim Harbaugh would go be the head coach of Mississippi State. Does anybody think that could happen?
There's a possibility.
Start the rumor.
I'd argue he'd be stupid not to, but that's just me.
Here's my follow-up question to that. Would you care if he had somebody say steal signs if he did come to Starkville? Like if he did the same thing?
Let me tell you something, Casey. You can't ask me a question like that because I know it's never going to happen. So what I can tell you is honor and integrity mean more to me than winning little football games, okay? College football is a fun little diversion, and it's a good little thing for you guys to have. But I am a man of honor, a man of integrity. And I actually am. I don't just use it as my little barstool identity like some people. I'm a man of honor and a man of integrity, okay? So I would never, ever accept somebody like Jim Harbaugh into my program. Unless he wanted to come, then we talk.
Yeah, then we talk. Here's a question. Do you think he'd rather go to Mississippi State or Texas A&M?
Mississippi State. I mean, given the choice, would you let me put it like this. Would you rather go be in a cult or not be in a cult? I would say not be in a cult.
Well, I guess it depends. If you're in a cult and I don't know, just say all you need to do is be bowl eligible and you get paid almost $100 million. Sounds pretty good to me. But for real, I know we're around Dan and he does his thing, and Kyle Long was on the Pro Football Show with us and said the same thing, but it seems like Chicago Bear fans would drive him to Chicago right now. Like all jokes aside, like whether, the Vikings wanted him or, every year there's always talk about Jim Harbaugh leaving Michigan, go back into the NFL. But this year it seems like there are fan bases that are more vocal. Now, maybe I just live in a vacuum. I don't know. But I feel like Chicago would welcome him with open arms, regardless of what he knew or didn't know is going on in Michigan.
Chicago would just take any coach with a functioning brain at this point. I mean, they've been wandering in the football desert for a while, and Harbaugh is carrying water, so they would absolutely crawl up to him and say, "Hey, please come share some water with us." And he's at no point in any of this has anybody said he's a bad coach. He's a phenomenal coach,
right?
So, especially when he knows all the plays that are coming. So here we go. Topic 2. Brian Ferentz era is ending at Iowa. Now, this isn't that big of a deal in the long run, other than the fact that Iowa is getting rid of a bad offensive coordinator. One thing that a couple things to note here. Iowa was a bad offense before Brian Ferentz ever showed up. So they got some cultural offensive things to weed out of the program. Number 2, is this – Jack, I get the sense – that this is the first wave of both Ferentzes piecing out of Iowa. I feel like this is the first step, and I think Kirk Ferentz might be quick behind him. Is that a crazy thing to think?
Well, can you fire a coach that goes 10-2?
I didn't say fire. But Kirk Ferentz has been there a long time. Kirk Ferentz is basically being forced to fire his son. We get to November and they finished 9-3, or they finished 10-2.
If he was leaving, why would he fire his son?
That's the part I can't figure out. That's the part that doesn't make sense.
I think he fired his son with the idea, hey, I want to keep going. If he wants to fall on his sword, he ain't falling on his sword by firing his son. I mean, he's had more than enough opportunities. He's obviously a good father. So,
yeah, I guess you're right. That would be.
At least that's my reaction to what you're saying. But
if you're going out, you go out with him.
Yeah, because why in the midst of the season, when instead it could have been, all right, son, I've stood by you this whole time. I know I'm leaving at the end of the year. I'm just going to resign. And then obviously with the new coach, you won't work there.
I just got to read a comment. I got to read this comment. Carlos Monarez says, yes, you can fire a coach with that record. Nebraska has done it to Pelini and Solich. Thank you. Exactly. Nebraska being the example, you can't fire a coach with that record. Because Nebraska fired Solich, they fired Pelini, and they said, we're going to go back to being Nebraska. And they've been fucking awful ever since. So, no, you can't fire a coach with that record.
And, I mean, yeah, I feel like we should ask Katie, because I would say the only person who's not an Iowa fan on the Brian Ferentz beat for the past since the contract. I mean, she would text about it randomly. I'd just be like, I can't talk about Brian Ferentz anymore. So, Katie, do you feel like this is something that's like a part of you is dead now? That you can no longer stay up with the Brian Ferentz watch?
I don't necessarily know how much involved. I think it's been a funny story, but I think to Brandon's point, this came from the AD, not from Kirk Ferentz, which normally this messaging comes from the head coach. So I think that might be a sign, if anything.
No, because they may not have wanted like publicly to. Kirk Ferentz has been great to Iowa, even though if they were out on him, they would. It's weird timing because what does this even solve?
Also, he's still coaching.
I know.
It's like, hey, he's done at the end of the year. You can look forward to. Like, it's still his offense.
I feel like if you put in the contract what they did about how many points you have to score, like you're daring this guy to get fired, because it's like you're not even just saying, hey, like you have to win X amount of games, which I'm sure is in a lot of contracts quietly. It's an actual number of offensive points that you have to score. And it was kind of like setting him up to fail, in my opinion. We know Iowa. I mean, Iowa was not going to score that many points every single game.
Say that, but if you're an offensive coordinator in 2023 and you can't score 25 points a game, you don't deserve to be an offensive coordinator in
1,000%. I'm not saying they shouldn't have done it, but I'm saying that it was kind of like drawn in the sand before the season. Like, we know this team cannot score points. Here's a point total that most teams would laugh at. Most offensive coordinators would be like, okay, we can do that in the first half. We know Iowa struggles. So that kind of, to me, set him up in order for this to happen. It is bizarre that it's happening. You know, we know he's not going to come back. We'll see what happens with Kirk. But, you know, in general, firing a guy for a season that, you know, winning 10 games, like, that's crazy. Like, I know you can do it, and I get that. But the only time, like, I mean, who has it ever worked out? I mean, Mark Richt was a weird one, but has it ever really worked out outside of having one of the best coaches in college football?
Yeah, it's
like firing Mac Brown at Texas didn't work out. Like, you know, I don't know.
It's interesting. What was my third topic? Oh, the playoff rankings come out tomorrow, the first ones. I and y'all correct me if I'm wrong here. I feel like the first playoff rankings this year have less intrigue than any first playoff rankings I can ever remember. I think I say that because so much looks like it's probably going to work itself out. Like, I don't think it matters where a lot of teams are tomorrow. Like Alabama and Georgia, for example, they're going to figure it out in the SEC championship game. One of them's probably going to the playoff. Michigan, Ohio State are going to figure things out. One of them's going to go to the playoff. At least one of them's going to go to the playoff. In the Pac-12, it's Oregon, Washington. It's a two-team race out there. Who wins that conference championship game is going to be in line. And then ACC, Florida State, they keep winning. They're in. I just think everything's going to fall into place pretty good here, so I'm not really worried about the first one. Is that wild?
No, I don't think it is, and I don't think they're worried about the first one. We've seen that in the past. It's kind of like they just roll it out. You know, they have to give us, you know, the first playoff ranking, but they know that all of it's going to change. So they're, you know, maybe every once in a while they'll do something a little bit spicy because they know the conversation will get started and people will bitch and moan or be really happy, but they know that it's going to work out because, like you mentioned, in multiple different conferences, these teams have to play each other to I mean, assuming Alabama makes it to Atlanta and all of that. So I don't think they care as much. I mean, when they first started, it felt like they were deliberating for like days on end. I feel like now at this point in 2023, they're like, hey, it's pretty straightforward. Let's roll it out there and let's just keep watching the games on the field.
I have three teams in this country I feel pretty decent can finish undefeated. The winner of Michigan, Ohio State. Let's just put them together, put a slash in between them. The winner of that can go undefeated. Georgia can go undefeated. And I think Florida State will go undefeated. I don't think Washington can go undefeated. I don't think they're good enough. And then that really takes everybody out, and that puts everybody in a one-loss pile that we figure out later. We have a whole month to figure all that out. But as far as the undefeated teams and who can get to the line, I think those are the big three: Michigan / Ohio State, Georgia, and Florida State. Now, Florida State, I think they're the only one of those that couldn't survive a loss. I don't think they could survive a loss, but I think the other two probably could.
I think they could too. It also depends on, in the SEC, it depends on, you know, if Alabama just stays where they are with the one loss they have, and then they, you know, go in and say they do beat Georgia in the SEC championship, then, you know, I feel like you can't leave Georgia out at that point. But then do you take an Alabama? There's so much on the table left, and I don't think they would do it again. But I mean, we could potentially see whoever loses between Ohio State and Michigan being in the playoff anyways, just like it happened last year. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Is there a current 2-loss team that anybody thinks could have a chance? Yes, you're saying LSU.
LSU, but
Probably. I mean, it's a tough chance.
Yeah,
but I think Jane Daniels also being the Heisman contention would help them. Not necessarily like they're going to put him in because of it, but I think he is playing well enough to make it always part of the conversation.
Well, I think what helps them the most, and what hurts them most in reality, but what helps them the most is who they have left on the schedule. If they finish with 2 losses, that means they will have beaten in November and December. They would have beaten Alabama and Georgia. So they would have really, really, really taken a big step forward with who they've beaten. Problem is their defense is fucking garbage, and they're not good enough to beat those teams. They might beat Alabama. I don't think they're good enough to beat Georgia.
I just also can't imagine a 2-loss team going in over a 1-loss team in like the Pac-12 or even the Big Ten, just because of the way that LSU played early in the season. But you are correct at that. It would be 2 big wins at the end of the season. However, we saw what happened in 2016. We saw what happened with Penn State and Ohio State. And I just don't see a 2-loss team getting in with 14.
If LSU beats Georgia, they're in.
I think that's a very that scenario is a lot more likely than we would think, because again, LSU with 2 losses, one being to a probable playoff team in Florida State, right, at a neutral site, and one being to Ole Miss where they lost by 6 points at the very end. They would then have wins over Alabama and Georgia.
So they're automatically in, but who would you leave out?
No, I don't know if they're automatically in. I don't go that far, but I think they would have one hell of a case, and you would, if you weighed them up against. See, it's tough because if they weighed them up against Texas, at that point, Texas would have wins over Alabama and Oklahoma.
Well, let's just say, again, hypothetically, it's all going to play out. But if you're saying that they'll be in, Jack, with 2 losses, let's say Florida State goes undefeated. Let's say Michigan or Ohio State goes undefeated, and then you have a 1-loss Oregon Pac-12 team. Do you leave Georgia out, or do you put in LSU? That's the scenario that could be very, very.
No, Georgia's out.
I think they would leave Georgia too, because Georgia would have,
okay.
At that point Georgia doesn't have a win.
I see what you're saying. That Georgia's done.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it would just be that, just because it was like they just played, and is that unfair? Yeah, but also just because how Georgia's schedule played out this year, they didn't really have any other wins. All that being said, I don't see it. The chances of LSU beating Bama and Georgia, and also it's not like they have a bunch of easy games outside of that. It's very small. I don't think they're going to be able to do that, at least in my opinion. Now, can they? Yeah, sure, but it would be I would just be shocked. Georgia's so much better than them. I think obviously Alabama's better than them, but we'll see this Saturday. It should be fun.
Yeah, I guess the 2 different conferences, you're right. But it's like Kansas State didn't get in last year, even though they beat TCU. And TCU lost as an undefeated regular season champion, in the Big 12 championship. But it'll all play out. It doesn't matter. It'll all play out. We'll see.
All right, Casey, can I tell you about Cars.com?
Yeah, of course you can.
Cars.com is the leading digital marketplace to buy, sell, find cars. They've got every car under the sun. If you can think of a car in your mind, you can probably find it on Cars.com. You can check the mileage. You can check where it's at. You can check the price. You can check whatever. You can finance the dang thing on Cars.com. Cars.com has everything. And what you drive says so much about who you are and what you want to be. Whatever you can think of to be, whoever you want to be. That possibility exists on Cars.com. They have up to 50,000 cars uploaded every single day, up to 2 million cars at any one given time on Cars.com. You can find your next possibility on Cars.com. Where to next?
Where to next?
Where to next, Casey? Where to next?
Where to next is going to be, Brandon, I've got some questions for you, Jack and Katie, and I decided to be very cheesy. Maybe it's the mom vibe in me, but I made it Halloween themed. I was like, you know what? Halloween is tomorrow. People might be listening or watching this tomorrow.
Oh, ho, ho,
ho. Can I start with the questions?
Yes.
Yeah, but okay, what are you going to ask? Because I was calling a timeout.
Mine's about college football. If yours is more about Halloween as a whole.
No, it's all about college football. So it's college football.
No. I think Brandon wanted.
Oh.
My question was simply, this is your son's first Halloween. Has he got a costume?
He does have a costume.
What is it?
So he's going to be an astronaut because he has this rattle that's like a little Saturn, and he's obsessed with it. And it's like, that's all he ever wants to hold. And so I thought, well, this would make sense. And then I found an infant astronaut costume that actually has a rocket that says "to the moon" on it. So it's like a Barstool astronaut collaboration.
I'm glad my costume isn't
Posted
old.
a photo, Casey, on your close friends story of your son sleeping, and it was the most relaxed human being I've ever seen in my life. Obviously, it was on the close friends, but it was the most relaxed human being I'd ever seen. He looked like an adult. Well, he is, as we know. He's
Jack. When
graduated.
And to make it even better, that picture is what I like. The monitor is in our room, and like that's what he looked like when I got home on Saturday night / Sunday morning from Madison. And I'm full of anxiety, like, oh my God, like I'm not home.
Is he okay? Yeah.
And I get home, and this man, so like obviously people that are listening and watching haven't seen it because it was on my close friend story, but he is sleeping with his hands completely behind his head, not up like babies do, not like the touchdown. It was like completely behind his head, just vibing out. Like I strive to be that unbothered. I truly do. I was like, God, it'd be great to be a baby. It was incredible.
Jack,
and then could we my quick question is, which college fan base is feeling the spookiest right now?
Jack, you know what? Your questions are very much in line.
Okay, no, but like,
wait. I mean, this is obvious. Is
it Michigan?
They can pretend that everything's fine. They can pretend they're very confident nothing's going to happen. They can even pretend J.J. McCarthy's actually good enough to win the Heisman. They can pretend everything they want to pretend. But Michigan fans are not that confident right now. They're at least a little nervous. And I don't know how we define spooky, but if my team was at the best they've been in years and they had a scandal hanging over them, an open-ended scandal, I think that's a pretty spooky-ass feeling.
You're 100% correct.
I was outside of Michigan. Arkansas fans can't be feeling great.
Yeah. I mean, do you
think USC fans are a little bit like, uh-oh?
I got a couple. I know I get after them a lot, but Oklahoma fans can't be feeling great right now after getting themselves worked up to the point where this was the return to glory, and then they lost to Kansas. Like that's a rough feeling. USC fans have got to be wondering, did we get sold a bill of goods on this guy? Is this everything that plagued his teams at Oklahoma is plaguing his teams now? Like, yeah, I think USC is in an uh-oh spot.
And knowing that Caleb Williams is gone. Like knowing that this is his last season.
I'll give you another one. I think the Clemson fans have got to be wondering, is it gone forever? Because it is very possible when you lose it, it's hard to get it back. Clemson fans might be realizing right now that everything Dabo brought them, all of the best memories are memories. So, and you know what? Staying in that same state, South Carolina realizes they have a bad coach.
Your answer, I mean, and the correct answer is Michigan, because no matter what, what they say, how, like, if you know that there's potential like ramifications coming in a year that a lot of fans think that they're going to win the national title, like you have to be scared, regardless of if you believe it's going to happen or not.
Before we get to your questions, I got one question for you, Casey, and then we'll move on.
Okay.
I think it is fair to say that of the people on this podcast, you've been the most pro Deion Sanders. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't think it's like, I think that's a fact. Yes.
What do you make of Deion throwing his offensive line under the bus the other night?
I mean, so obviously, like we always say, you want coaches to say what they actually feel. Like coach speak is boring. We don't want to hear it. We want to say what they have, what they actually think. I do think that there's an element where you look at it and you say, okay, like it's your first year, that, the whole I'm bringing my Louis and the whole thing. Like I can see why it rubs people the wrong way. I absolutely can. Do I think that he meant to like maliciously be like, these kids suck? No, but obviously it's going to rattle a lot of people, ruffle some feathers. But that's what I want to hear from coaches. I would love to be able to hear a coach actually say how they feel if they're going to be asked questions. So I'm torn with it. I didn't think it was near as big of a deal as people were making it, but I understand why people do think it's a big deal.
So I agree with some of that, and I disagree with some of it. I do think he meant to say those kids suck.
I do, but I don't think he was like, I mean, I don't think that it was like a malicious, like, I hate these kids, they suck. I think it's just like, hey, like we clearly have a problem. And anybody who's watching Colorado play right now can very clearly see that the offensive line is a problem.
The thing is with Deion Sanders, he's not going to engage in a lot of coach speak. He's not gonna give the canned answers, and I don't think he's gonna protect feelings. And no other coach would say what he said the other night, and I'm not sure he should have said what he said the other night, but I know that he probably doesn't care what I think of what he said. So it is what it is. He said it. It's out there, and the truth is the truth. If they're going to get to a level they need to get to next year, they got to get better. They got to get better a lot of places, okay? Because they can't run the ball. They're not really explosive in the run game at all, and the offensive line is bad. The defensive line is also bad. They're slow up front on defense. Like, they got to improve a lot. But when you're taking over for a one-win team, there's a reason they won one game. There's holes everywhere. He fixed some of the holes, not enough of them. All right. Now, what are your questions?
Okay. Halloween edition. Brandon Walker.
Yep.
Who is the most frightening team to play in 2023 right now? Who would you just be like scared shitless to go out and play?
That's a great question. So there's two ways you can go with this question. You can take it in the fact that who is the absolute best team and I'm not going to be able to beat, or who is the team that is right. I'm going to answer it like this. Who's that team right underneath that top level that can fuck you up, that can fuck your whole season up? I might go conference by this because I think in the Pac-12, the scariest team, the team I wouldn't want to see on the other sideline right now, Jed Fish and the Arizona Wildcats. This is a team who's only lost to good teams. They lost, I say that. They lost to Mississippi State in overtime. They probably shouldn't have lost that game. That's not a good team. But they lost to USC in overtime, and they lost to Washington by 7. And if you are a contender in the Pac-12 and Arizona is on your schedule, I'd be terrified of playing them. Let's go by conference. If I'm in the in the Big Ten, I don't think there's one according to this criteria because I think there's 3 really good teams, and I don't think there's really anybody in that conference that can beat them.
Yeah, I didn't know which way you would take it because it's like, is it the team that you think is the best on the field? Like, obviously, Georgia is not a terrible answer.
Yeah.
Oregon, to me right now, Oregon, the way that they've been playing as well. Yeah. But Arizona is not an answer I expected. Jack, Katie?
Well, I'm going from a perspective not of this is the best team, but this is the team who
is the most frightening.
Who can absolutely fuck us up when we're least expecting it. Like, Jack, you got any? Because I got another one.
You go ahead. Sorry, we were just trying to figure out. There's some static.
Got a lot of static. A lot of static. Can you get that, Jack?
You hear it now?
Yeah.
Oh, bad.
Bad.
That's bad. There you go.
That's bad. Katie?
I think if I'm in the middle of – go ahead, Katie. I had another one, but you go.
I took a different approach. That's a team that I don't want to play against, and I'm scared shitless of losing to. NC State, for me, is my scariest team. Like, if UNC loses to Oregon, like, it's a good team. It's a scary game, but it's like, okay, I can live with that loss. For me on my schedule, it's NC State. That's the one that I just don't want to lose to. Like, that's a really bad team. It's a good rivalry. That's a team I'm scared of the most right now.
I'm going to take it a little bit further. I'm going to give you an example of a team who should be scared of a team.
Mm.
And if I'm a Texas Longhorns fan, I am terrified of Kansas State. I am fucking terrified of Kansas State because Kansas State has got their shit together. Texas has a backup quarterback. Like, you've got everything in front of you. All your dreams are in front of you. And Kansas State sitting there in the middle. Oh, man, that's a scary-ass game for them.
Along those lines, Oklahoma State right now. Like, if you're Oklahoma playing at Bedlam, I don't
even count them because Oklahoma State's just going to beat the shit out of them.
Well, that's frightening, isn't it?
I guess, but I don't consider Oklahoma a good team. So
okay, so who do you think is the most cursed team in the 2023 season?
I got one.
Yes.
Is there any team out there whose coach died?
Mississippi State. I don't want to laugh. You always do this to me.
No, here's the thing. And everybody always wants to make fun of Brandon Walker. And, oh, what about Mississippi State? What about Mississippi State? What about Mississippi State? I know I use it as a joking excuse. The coach of Mississippi State who went 9-4 last year and had everybody coming back literally died.
Yeah.
And they hired a guy who had never been a head coach, just to keep things together. And they didn't know how to navigate the situation. And it was a little – so I think there's a possibility that we're going to just restart everything very soon. I don't know. I think I like the guy, but I think there might be a restart on the horizon. But so yeah, if I'm talking cursed, I think I'll talk about the team who lost one of the most legendary voices in the history of college football.
That legitimately is the right answer. Like it's because it's just cursed whenever you lose somebody like that. It's also just really sad. Outside of the death of a head coach, like
cursed teams. Okay.
Clemson, maybe?
No, because they're a cult. They deserve it.
Please.
How about South Carolina? Outside of when Michigan has given them signals over the last couple of years, they've been god awful. And they thought they were turning a corner when they had those fake wins last year. And now they're just doomed to suck. Even Clemson falling off, they can't really celebrate it too much because they're 2-6.
Yeah, it's not good.
What about Nebraska?
They're quietly exactly where they need to be. They're not good yet, but they're in the first year of a coach who builds quickly. And all he needs to do is get to a bowl, get 15 extra practices, start getting transfers in there. Matt Rule is exactly where Nebraska needs to be for Matt Rule to turn that thing around very soon. So I don't think they're cursed at all.
He's also saying the right things too, which I know is not always a great thing. Like some people are just like, whatever, say the right things, but do something on the field. Like it seems to me, and again, maybe it's just because my vicinity being around Will every week for the NFL show, but like they seem to actually be buying into him, not just like, okay, like we're winning some games. Like they actually like what he's bringing to the table outside of just games.
I'm going to throw one more out, okay? This is a cursed team. Imagine, for if you will, a team 2 years ago who beat their rival on Halloween weekend.
Good answer.
Everything is going the right way. They love it so much. They're in playoff contention all the way to the end. They win a big-time bowl. They give the guy $100 million, $90 million contract extension. And then in less than 2 years, he gets in trouble off the field doing and saying things he shouldn't do to the wrong people. Everybody transfers. The bottom drops out of the program. They're now an also-ran, and that same rival that 2 years ago was your biggest victory is sitting on top of the sport. That's a cursed-ass fan base.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. And every time you say it or we say it, it is crazy to think that it was 2 years ago when we were there and East Lansing was like bumping.
Yes, I was talking about Michigan State. I never mentioned that.
But I mean, yeah, I think when you say your coaches were saying and doing things, I feel like Mel Tucker is the obvious answer there. No,
a lot of coaches in this country saying and doing things.
That's true. Jack, good? Are you good, or is the static still bad?
I've been off mute now for a little bit, so okay. I guess I think I fixed it. Sorry about that, guys.
No, you're okay. Do you have any answers since who you think that the most frightening or cursed team is since you were muted for that?
Yeah, I would add, I mean, this is selfish, but UConn had a great year last year, and there was a lot of hype coming into the season. And I know it's a much smaller team, but this is my team. And they're 1-7 after what seemed like was a rejuvenized, revolted. I know that's not a word, but fan base and program, and now we're kind of lost. So that definitely stinks, and it's kind of like where you go. So unfortunately, and on top of it, there's only 2 independent teams left outside of Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's kind of their own conference in itself. So it's UConn, UMass, and Notre Dame for independence. And not being in a conference stinks. So that kind of feels a little bit like it's cursed.
Okay, Brandon?
Yep.
You know how in scary movies, there's always somebody who dies first, right? Usually it's the girls that look like me. The blonde hair, she's drunk. She goes outside when there's a murderer outside. That's usually what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say we had a scary movie, a horror movie, and it was all college football head coaches right now. Who is the first head coach that gets killed off in a scary movie for doing something stupid?
All right. I'm going to stay away from stereotypes.
I can say it because it's my stereotype.
No,
I was thinking about
he was talking about another one.
Okay, yeah, stay away from that, please.
Yeah.
Shane Beamer would get killed right away, man. He'd be like, "Hey, you want to come here and play football for me?
We're kicking this murderer's butt."
Boom, dead. And he would like, and then right before his death, he would get like an inch away from being trapped in, and he'd put his hands up like this, like, "We did it."
Yeah.
and then he would die.
Well, I got one because I think nerds often go first too. You're right. Women, the black guy, nerds, they always go first. Okay. Eli Drinkwitz is probably going first.
Yep. He would go talk. He would go
he's
talk
gonna be
to.
out there, he's going to be out there talking shit, and then he's just done.
Elijah would walk out there and talk to the.
Hey, buddy, hot out here, ain't it?
Buddy, have you heard of my Savior Jesus Christ? And he would give them a Bible, and they would just. It would just.
That would maybe be Dabo too, but it really is like in any, especially like B-list movies, like you can tell before the murder even starts who's going to go.
Can we flip that question?
Who would be the last? That was my next question. I was like, okay. If in the same scenario, who is the guy at the very end that survived the most? And like, to be honest, if I'm in that position, I would probably want to die anyways. Like I've lived through the most. I don't even want to see this horror. Who would be surviving?
I have the answer.
Katie, go for it.
Not debatable. It has to be Kyle Whittingham.
No, he's too old.
He's wise.
Keep in mind, Harbaugh's going to have a Marine telling him everywhere the murderer is.
Yep. Let's not forget.
That's not.
I'm torn on one because I can't see Brett Bielema getting killed, but he's also fat.
I would say Dion, but he's still recovering from the foot surgery.
Yeah.
Like before, just based on athleticism and strength, I think Dion would have been at the top of the list.
What about Dan Lanning? Dan Lanning looks like a guy that would take no shit.
Here's what's going to happen. There's going to be two left. Okay. What's going to happen is one coach is going to be like beaten and bloodied, and he's going to survive, and he's going to be like Rambo. He's going to kill like 25 monsters. And at the end he rises. Let's say it's, who's a tough coach? Let's say it's Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning does that. And he finally crawls over all the dead bodies of all the coaches, and he gets to the end, and he looks up, and sitting in a rocking chair on a porch is Nick Saban. Nick Saban's like, you did it, young man. You did it.
That's incredible.
Because a monster ain't killing Nick Saban.
No, he's like, he's got like the secret powers. You're right. Like but then there's also like the element too, like who's like Nick Saban does not fall in this category, but who's like a coach that like should die, but just won't die? Because my answer would be Jimbo Fisher.
No, I think that's the fat guys. I think it's Bielema. I think it's Pittman. I think it's the fat guys.
Okay.
They're pretty shocking. Fat guys are resilient.
That's fair.
Wouldn't the fat guys be killed when they're low on food?
It depends on the movie.
The fat guys might start killing coaches too.
That's true.
All right. What else you got?
Okay. So let's say that we had a haunted house, right? With every single program, let's say Power 5, just to make it easier. Power 5 program in a haunted house. Who has the scariest room in the haunted house right now? Who is the room that you are just like, shit, if I survive this, I survived the haunted house?
I think if it's a haunted house full of Oklahoma fans, I would just probably shoot myself. I would probably everywhere I turn is just a 38-year-old white guy who's divorced and has bad credit. Like fuck, just take me now.
So you're going with like the fans. You're not just going with like the whole like atmosphere culture. It's just like straight up. If you were at a haunted house and you had to deal with Boomer Sooner fans, like
I think all of Norman, Oklahoma is a haunted. All of Oklahoma is basically a haunted house featuring Oklahoma fans.
I didn't expect you to go that way. I like that a lot. Jack, do you have one? I feel like I might have just set you up for this one, but
worst fan.
Well, I did fan base. It could be coach or anything.
Right now, it would be like the scariest you're saying.
Like the scary, like it could be anything about a program, whether it's like their traditions, their coaches, their team, their like whatever. If you were in that room of a haunted house, who would scare you the most?
I guess I would go along with Oklahoma. Rutgers would be up there just for me personally. Yeah.
Imagine going through the Texas A&M haunted house and just wondering who that is grabbing your nuts.
Yep.
Honestly, I would have accepted so many answers for A&M. You know, like you see the yell leaders, you see the guys carrying, you know, the fire, but you have to go with grabbing the nuts. By the way, some people are into that.
Tell you what, Casey, Jack and Katie, you can speak up if you'd like, but I don't think any of us three have pictures of our fans grabbing each other's nuts. I don't know.
I don't have that either. It was one.
Well,
No.
Well,
No.
well,
No.
well,
No.
well.
They were grabbing their own nuts, not each other's. That's
Well, I tell you what, and you know what? If I am going to a haunted house, though, you can give me a full army, and I don't know if I could win, but you give me a handful of Texas Ags, I could win a war.
I knew that this question could potentially open this up. I kind of thought Jack would take it, but yeah, no, it's an acceptable answer. It is. A&M is an acceptable answer. Also, Arkansas would be pretty terrifying. Just saying.
Oh God, you could outsmart them in a second though. Just put a trail of candy, and that dumb fan base will all just go off in the same direction.
I have a haunted house.
Okay.
It's not necessarily a team, it's a situation. It's
Okay.
your team is playing either like your rival for your conference title or national title, and you're in the wedding on the Saturday and you can't get out of it. So you like during the ceremony, your game is going on, it's coming down to the wire, but like the ceremony is happening. You can't be on your phone. You're like looking at someone in the audience trying to like
Can I stop you there?
Yes.
What you're saying is too unbelievable to even happen. I'm gonna make a promise to God and everybody right now. There's not a wedding on earth that is keeping me from a Mississippi State national title game. I don't care if it's my wedding. I don't care if my mom got married. I don't care. I have 4 kids. One of them's a daughter. If she decides to get married the day that Mississippi State plays for a national title, I'm sending her $100 bill and a note that says "Good luck." That's what I'm doing.
Only 100?
Huh?
Yeah, you should pass.
I'm just no. There's no way, no chance. I'm and I'm not a big. Everybody likes to get points on Twitter by saying, "Oh, fall weddings are bad. Fall weddings are this." I'm not a big. If you want to get married in the fall, fine, get married in the fall. I ain't coming, but get married in the fall. Do what you want. But you're talking about getting married when there's a national title game. Well, first of all, national title games are on Monday night anyway. So who's getting married on Monday night?
Go with it.
Also, there is the scenario where it's like you don't know that you're going to be in the national title probably when weddings are being planned. Like that is that. Like I've been in situations now. Obviously, my school has not been in a national title or anywhere close, but I have been at weddings when A&M has been in bowl games after the regular season because they were like, "Well, we didn't know this was going to happen." Nightmare.
Can I?
TCU fans last.
Hey, what'd you say? Come here.
Oh boy.
Come here.
Is it Tommy Walker?
Whooping.
I think he said you're not gonna be in a national title game because you're not an Alabama fan. What'd you say? Come here, boy, come here.
Oh shit!
What
His own kid is turning on him.
What did you say? What did you say?
You know what I said?
No, I didn't hear you. I heard Alabama. What'd you say?
I'm an Alabama fan.
You said I'm an Alabama fan. You're coming out as an Alabama fan. I'll deal with you later.
Did we just witness
Did that just happen?
Brandon's child revolt against him in real time?
I can hear the giggles.
Oh my God.
Come here. Stop laughing. Come here.
This has to be a devastating. I can't even laugh. This has to be a devastating moment for Brandon. I can't. I feel sorry.
Come here. Come here.
Oh no.
Come here. Come here. You're my son. I love you. I'm going to ask you a question on camera.
Mhm.
Are you a Mississippi State fan or an Alabama fan?
Both.
Who do you like better?
Kind of depends.
On what?
However they've done that year.
Well, then that. Do you like Alabama?
Kinda, yeah. That's Gamma's favorite team.
I know it's Gamma's favorite team, and we don't talk about that. Go. Daughter, do not come in the camera. Are you a Mississippi State fan or Alabama fan? You're the best one I have. All right.
Oh.
Contrary. Because he said he'll like whatever's doing better. Does that mean you just raised a bandwagon fan?
No, that's just a kid.
Okay.
And it's like his grandma. Is
Yeah.
But I gotta say, Brandon, my heart goes out to you because I would have thought that prior to this year. But if my son ever walks in to my living room or my studio and tells me that he's not a fan of the school that I love, I feel like I would bawl my eyes out. Credit to you for not crying.
Yeah, you're right.
You lost him. You got 3 others. You got 3. I don't even feel like I want to ask any more questions. I feel like we should just go. This was just a heartbreaking moment in this podcast history.
I'll fix it. I'll get it fixed. I'll fix it.
Is
Just-
Tommy going to be alive?
We can't go yet without talking about Grammarly. Casey, talk about Grammarly.
I feel so bad. So when we've talked about Grammarly in the past, I've mentioned that I am one of the world's worst spellers. And I had people being like, oh, well, you went to A&M. Of course you're bad. No. A&M's very smart. I just happen to be a very bad speller. I got Grammarly connected to my apps, which is the best part. So it's connected to Twitter, Instagram. It's connected to my emails. It's connected to everything, and it spell checks for me. Also, like if you're in an industry or you're still in school where you're having to write outlines, it can help you with that. It's the best. It corrects your grammar, your spelling, but also just helps you with ideas. They can lay it out there for you. And if you go to Grammarly.com/podcast, you can download it for free today. And it really is like what my teachers told me when I was growing up, like, oh, you'll never have somebody to help you spell. You'll never have somebody to check your grammar. You need to learn. Not so fast. Grammarly.
Yeah, Grammarly was there for me during college, high school. I feel like I've been one of the first Grammarly.
Oh, we are a Mississippi State family.
Well, one of the most.
We are a Mississippi State family.
When those children of branding grow up and go to high school, even middle school, high school, college, they'll be using Grammarly. And to think I've been using it for so long, I thank you to my mother for introducing it to me. I love Grammarly, and for it to be here with us now, and I'm still using it. It's been, I've gone through so many laptops. Grammarly's there every time for every laptop. Shout out Grammarly. Go to Grammarly.com/podcast to download for free today.
And you guys know, because you both, Katie and Jack, you work obviously in social media, like more so than even just like the content people. Jack, you're running main accounts. The worst thing in the world is when you have a tweet that goes even a little bit viral and there's a spelling error or a grammar error in it, and that's what everybody's pointing out. That is the fucking worst. Grammarly can help you. Brandon, again, if people tuned in on Saturday night, we went through the saga multiple times of the prank that I pulled on you. And, you and I have fought in the past, both on the podcast and off. I don't know if I have ever felt more sorry for you than I do right now. Legitimately. Like, I am sad for you. I'm sad. It's heartbreaking for you.
I'll get it fixed. We're a Mississippi State family. That's my statement on that matter. Shut the show down.
Yeah, well, I can't ask anything else. The show's over. You want to talk about the spookiest thing that happened to Brandon Walker? It just happened in real time. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Like the video.
Like the video, guys.